Well, folks, while the trucker freedom convoys received the lion's share of publicity when they descended upon Ottawa and Windsor, there was also another trucker rally, this one in Little Coutts, Alberta. And while it might have been smaller, the story that was told is really quite profound. And I'm delighted to be joined by my guest. He is the producer of the documentary Trucker Rebellion, the story of the Coutts Blockade, and that would be Kian Simone. How you doing there, Kian?
Good. How are you, David?
I'm doing great. Well, you know what? What a fantastic documentary. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, why don't we throw to a few scenes from that doc that is now playing across Canada?
We're here for all Albertans, Canadians. We're here fighting for the freedoms of not us, but our kids, our grandkids, the future of this province, this country. We are prepared to put everything on the line.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views.
I've also received reports in the last hour of people allied with the protesters assaulting RCMP officers.
No, that was an assault between the two civilians, between a protester and a civilian.
So Jason Kenney's statement was not true at the press release.
I can tell you what I just told you, sir.
They have just blocked the border here in Coutts, Alberta to Sweetgrass, Montana.
We don't want to put anybody's livelihood in jeopardy. That is the very last resort. But
this is something I've certainly never seen before. Freedom and peace and loving. That's the Canadian way. It's not like CBC or any of these other mainstream news channels are making it out to be.
I am not a white supremacist.
we're not backing down until mandates lift. Yeah. We're not backing down until mandates are lifted. Yeah. This is our only battle we have.
So there you have it. You know, Kian, why don't we talk about your narrative versus what we saw from the mainstream media and, of course, the various governments? There was demonization. There was vilification. There was outright lying about crime and arson and vandalism. The precise opposite was true. When you were there in Coutts over those very cold weeks, observing this rebellion, how would you sum it up in the final analysis?
Yeah, so what you'll see in the documentary is actually, it's in a span of 9 days. And the whole thing is actually carried through from day 1 to day 9 of statements from Jason Kenney and statements from the mainstream media of what they were saying. So I would put their clip in of what they would say, and then the next thing, the next thing coming up would be what actually happened. So they got demonized and they were called names. There was a statement that Jason Kenney made that a trucker assaulted an RCMP officer. And to this day, that statement has not been retracted, which was not true.
So this is a false statement and there's been no retraction of that.
Yeah, so the RCMP said the same thing at the top, the top dogs at the RCMP, but the lower guys there, you'll see like there was a member of the protest who was speaking to the RCMP, and the RCMP who was there when the supposed assault happened, he never saw anything, and he was supposedly the one to report that.
Unbelievable. In fact, Kian, I seem to recall, and correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a large piece of construction equipment that was deliberately vandalized by the RCMP?
Yeah, I believe it was 3 excavators, which it's funny when you tell a story, but it's really not funny that it was on private property. They went in without a warrant. Anyway, it's a funny story because they were seen from the protest from the border. And the cops went over to the owners and said, can you move these? Can you move these out of the way? And they're like, we don't want them to be used in the protest. So the owner's like, sure, I'll move them out of the way. And then after they got moved out of the way was when they got foam sprayed by the RCMP. So they really wanted to move the excavators out of the way of the sight of other people so that they could break it.
That is despicable. And I wonder if in the future there'll be some kind of a civil lawsuit against that, because this is the police operating above the law, and nobody is above the law. That was absolutely, like I said, despicable. But tell me, Kian, when you look at the rank and file truckers and their allies that were part of the Coutts Blockade, how would you describe these people?
Sheila, at the previous screenings we've had for this documentary, brings up a great point, that it's not the judges, it's not the lawyers, it's not the teachers, and it sure isn't the doctors who save the country, who save the world, who save culture or society when it's in turmoil. It's the common person. And that's who these truckers are, and their ranking of how they participate in society. They're the ones that put food on our table. They're the ones who down in Coutts, there was people with 7 children, 9 children, 12 children, and they would bring them on the last final days. And these are regular people. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Being pushed to the brink. And I like what Tucker Carlson of Fox News said about truckers. And it was simply this. If you're alive, you owe your life to a trucker. They're the ones bringing groceries to the supermarket. They're the ones bringing pharmaceuticals to the drugstores. The idea that these people are vilified is absolutely perverse. Tell me too, Kian, this documentary, it's been playing at select cinemas. SOL, sold right out, standing room only. When you talk to people, members of the audience that see your report, what kind of feedback are you getting?
It's always I think it'll be different tonight. As you know, we're playing Toronto. In Edmonton, in Alberta as a whole, I think it's so special to be able to bring it to them, and because they got the smear campaign from the mainstream media as well. So all they have about what happened at Coutts was what I was able to get up on Twitter because of our little service that we had, right? Yeah. So when they were able to come and they would see this documentary and they would see the actual whole 9 days of what went on when the border was being blocked and unblocked, and the commotion that happened with the RCMP, the negotiations, and what these truckers like really went through. They didn't just go there and protest, stand around and drink beers at night and hang around. They went through some cold days where it was minus 45 with 110 kilometer wind chill.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah. So that's, they would come up to me in our Q&A and sometimes the questions wouldn't even be questions. It would just be a thank you.
You know, Kian, how do you respond to those critics of the trucker convoys? They typically phrase their criticism along the lines of, we believe in the right to protest, we believe in demonstrations, etc., but you don't have the right to occupy a street, to close off a bridge to another nation, so on and so forth. Why can't you just, spend an hour or two driving around saying what you have to do and then go home? How do you respond to these people?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't listen to anybody who didn't go. And second of all, they have to look at the last 2 years, which they have also, and their families have also been impacted by. And maybe they view it differently about how they feel about the virus and how it affects them on a health basis. Yeah. But like I said before, these are the people who put the food on our plates. They need to put food on their plates too. Yeah. So if you're going to push them into a corner, you're going to get pushed back from the people who have families. And that's what it is. It wasn't just truckers there. It was also my aunt.
Yeah, I think policies were making many of these people desperate, losing their livelihoods, their jobs, their homes. And when you lose all of that, what more can you do but make a profound statement yourself? And given all the misery that led up to these various convoys, what's incredible, Kian, I find, is that they weren't violent. It was like love. I mean, for goodness sakes, I don't know many revolutions in world history where there was a hot tub and a bouncy castle on the streets of the capital. Last word goes to you, my friend, when it comes up to summing up the Trucker Rebellion documentary.
Well, it's a great project. It was it was an honor to be able to be there and be the only journalist, myself and Sydney Fazard, on the scene.
Yes.
He was there for 16 days.
Oof.
I was there for 9. And this project that we're now sharing around the world, I think, is extremely important. And that's what we're going to do around the country. Is we're going to try to bring it to a hometown, maybe your hometown. If anybody has a theater, let us know and we'll bring it. I think everybody needs to see this on the big screen with the loudspeakers so you can hear the honking. You need to see it how it was made, what it was made for. It was the big screen.
Indeed. Well, thanks so much for coming in all the way from Calgary, Kian. And there you have it, folks. Trucker Rebellion, the story of the Coutts Blockade. Check your local listings if it's coming to a town or city near you. More of the Ezra Levant Show coming up right after this.
That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.